Tran Deep stands before the towering Sword Spirit Hall, silver aura flickering faintly around his determined form. Master Lai observes silently, eyes reflecting both worry and pride at his student's unwavering determination. The ancient stone doors tremble slightly, runes pulsing like heartbeats, awaiting the chosen one's approach. Tran Deep breathes deeply, recalling every lesson about controlling internal sword ki under pressure. Cold wind sweeps through the hall entrance, carrying whispers of past challengers, failures, and triumphs. He steps onto the first glowing rune, feeling his veins resonate with the sword spirit. Silver strands of energy spiral upward, wrapping around his arms and chest like living vines. Master Lai's voice echoes, warning him not to resist the hall's initial spiritual testing currents. Tran Deep steadies his breathing, merging his calm mind with the flowing ki around him. The ground beneath glows brighter, forming a blade-shaped pattern under his bare feet. Illusory swords emerge from the mist, hovering silently, measuring his courage with unseen eyes. A deep hum vibrates through the air, shaking the walls of the ancient chamber. Tran Deep remembers his humble village, drawing strength from childhood struggles and silent nights. He channels his inner energy, pushing sword ki into his palms, forming shimmering edges. The first trial begins. A storm of spectral swords rushing toward him at blinding speed. He pivots gracefully, wooden practice sword transforming with silver energy into a gleaming blade. Sparks fly as illusionary swords clash against his manifested weapon, testing his reflexes mercilessly. Master Lai closes his eyes, sensing the young man's growing synchronization with sword ki. Tran Deep feels the halls will probing his heart for weakness, doubt, or greed. He recalls his promise to protect friends and uncover the truth behind his parents' disappearance. His aura expands, forming a small vortex of swordlight that shreds approaching illusions. The hall shifts, revealing a new layer of runes, glowing crimson with hidden danger. A phantom voice challenges him, declaring his unworthiness, trying to shatter his mental focus. Tran Deep responds silently, his eyes burning with resolve, stepping forward without hesitation. The crimson runes explode, birthing chains of light meant to bind his movements completely. He channels ki into his feet, sliding free like a shadow escaping sunlight. Illusory chains recoil, hissing as they disintegrate under the pressure of his sword intent. Master Lai murmurs approval, sensing the boy's sword intent beginning to manifest as true power. Tran Deep advances to the second circle, where mirrored versions of himself suddenly appear. Each mirror self wields a different style, reflecting doubt, fear, anger, or ambition. He steadies his heart, knowing these manifestations must be overcome without losing his center. One doppelganger lunges, blade dripping dark energy representing his buried resentment. Tran Deep parries and counters, his blade singing with a clear, resonant tone. Another strikes from behind, embodying his hidden insecurity about failing the cultivation path. He spins, deflecting the blow, whispering affirmations of patience and discipline under his breath. The mirrored selves dissolve into sparks as he integrates their lessons, becoming whole again. The hall darkens, revealing a massive stone sword suspended in midair, glowing azure. A thunderous voice calls it the Sword Soul Seal, the final trial for initiates. Tran Deep raises his weapon, aligning his breathing with the stone sword's pulsating rhythm. He senses the seal's vast history, countless cultivators' hopes and fears etched within. The stone sword emits a wave of pressure, bending space and distorting his vision. He plants his feet firmly, projecting his sword intent outward like a protective barrier. Sparks of silver light cascade from his blade as he channels deeper layers of ki. The hall trembles, pillars shedding centuries of dust as ancient mechanisms awaken. Master Lai grips his staff, ready to intervene but respecting the sacred test's rules. Tran Deep lunges forward, cutting through the wave of pressure with an arc of light. The stone sword cracks slightly, releasing a stream of brilliant sword spirit energy. That energy lashes toward him, testing his capacity to absorb and harmonize foreign power. He opens his meridians wider, guiding the incoming force like a river into his dantian. His veins glow faintly silver, sweat rolling down his brow, but his focus unbroken. The energy's sharp edges scrape his soul, demanding balance and unwavering determination. Tran Deep recalls the Sword Soul Pool's baptism, drawing on that memory for guidance. He exhales slowly, blending his ki with the incoming sword spirit until it feels familiar. The stone sword shatters completely, transforming into a swirling vortex of pure sword intent. This vortex surrounds him, slicing nearby illusions into shimmering dust particles. Master Lai smiles faintly, recognizing a true sword cultivator being born before his eyes. The hall's floor symbols shift from crimson to bright silver, acknowledging his success. Tran Deep kneels, placing his blade tip on the ground in a gesture of respect. A radiant sigil appears on his forehead, marking him as an initiate of the Sword Spirit Hall. The hall's voice softens, granting him access to deeper teachings hidden for centuries. He rises slowly, feeling new strength and clarity flowing through his meridians. Master Lai approaches, congratulating him on surviving a trial that many older disciples failed. Tran Deep bows deeply, expressing gratitude for guidance, patience, and unspoken faith. Outside the hall, clouds part, revealing two suns shining on distant snow-capped mountains. Birds circle high above, sensing the shift in energy emanating from the hall. Tran Deep steps beyond the threshold, silver aura brighter than ever, resonating with distant swords. He remembers his lost childhood friends, promising silently to protect them with newfound power. Master Lai hands him an ancient scroll containing sword spirit techniques never taught publicly. Tran Deep studies the scroll briefly, sensing the depth of knowledge waiting within. He realizes this is just the beginning of a path far longer than imagined. A whisper of warning reaches his mind about enemies already sensing his growing strength. He steels himself, knowing power invites both respect and dangerous jealousy from rival sects. Master Lai outlines the next stage of training, merging body movement with sword aura seamlessly. Tran Deep practices slow forms, each motion guided by the hall's lingering sword energy. He feels the sword intent saturating the air, every breath sharpening his perception. Distant thunder echoes, a storm forming over the mountains like an omen of trials ahead. Tran Deep closes his eyes, visualizing each meridian as a flowing blade of light. The scroll's first technique reveals itself. Silent Edge, a strike impossible to predict. He rehearses the movement, channeling his entire being into a single decisive thrust. Master Lai corrects his stance, emphasizing balance and the union of spirit with steel. Tran Deep refines the movement, achieving a resonance that makes the hall hum softly. Shadows flicker at the hall's edges, suggesting hidden observers watching his progress. He senses them but chooses calmness, letting his aura expand naturally without provocation. Master Lai advises patience, reminding him the sect's politics can be deadlier than duels. Tran Deep bows, internalizing the lesson about restraint and timing in both combat and life. He continues practicing Silent Edge until his arms tremble but his mind remains steady. Night falls, hall torches igniting with blue flame, casting elongated shadows across the floor. Tran Deep sits cross-legged, meditating as sword spirit threads weave around his body. Dreams of future battles flicker in his mind, hints of paths not yet walked. He wakes at dawn, feeling stronger, sharper, more attuned to the hall's hidden melodies. Master Lai gifts him a small pendant, a token of protection and silent recognition. Tran Deep thanks him, vowing to honor the teachings and uphold the sect's principles. He glances at the mountains, sensing a calling from a place beyond known maps. The pendant glows faintly, synchronizing with his forehead sigil, hinting at deeper destiny. Sword Spirit Hall gates open quietly, allowing him full access to training grounds and archives. Tran Deep steps inside the archives, rows of ancient swords and scrolls greeting his eyes. He feels a surge of curiosity, realizing each blade tells a story older than empires. Master Lai follows, promising to reveal the hall's secret history when the time is right. Tran Deep breathes deeply, feeling the world broaden as his path to mastery unfolds. With newfound strength and clarity, he walks forward, ready to face challenges awaiting beyond the horizon. Morning sun bathes Sword Spirit Hall Square. Tran Deep stands silently with silver aura swirling calmly. Master Lai approaches with slow steps, eyes reflecting both pride and deep worry about upcoming trials. Tran Deep feels remnants of Sword Hall energy pulsing through his veins like liquid silver light. You passed the first gate, but real hardships begin now. Master Lai's voice resonates calmly. Tran Deep bows respectfully, remembering illusions and pain endured within Sword Spirit Hall's sacred chamber. He recalls the countless phantom swords, testing his heart, slicing doubts and forging inner strength. Master Lai leads him toward the Tom Kiem, hidden library of forbidden sword knowledge. Path of green stone winds through pine forest, morning mist drifting around ancient carved pillars. Wooden doors carved with hundreds of crossing swords glow faintly as they sense his approach. Inside, dusty scrolls and sealed jade boxes hold techniques lost for centuries, humming with power. Master Lai explains basic sword manuals on left, advanced intense scrolls on right shelves. Trandeep feels currents of energy flowing from each book, whispering ancient wisdom silently. For 3 days, he studies basic sword key manual. Without touching any advanced scrolls, each evening under moonlight, he practices calm heart breath, refining internal flow of sword key. His strikes grow softer yet heavier, echoing flowing water but cutting deeper than before. Master Lai observes from distance, approving his patient dedication without direct interference or praise. Meanwhile, whispers spread among disciples about his success and unusual aura after sword hall test. Jealous eyes follow him, especially Lu Han, veteran disciple, angered by newcomers' sudden ascent. Rumors claim Trandeep relied on luck, unworthy of Tong Kiem's sacred access. Trandeep ignores gossip, focusing on breathing techniques and perfecting fundamental sword stances steadily. Silver light in his meridians expands each day, harmonizing with subtle currents of heaven. Lu Han plots challenge, believing public duel will expose Trandeep as unskilled impostor quickly. An invitation arrives. Sword testing gathering among disciples on 7th day after library entry. Master Lai advises attending, not to prove worth but to test and temper experience. Trandeep agrees silently, sensing inevitable confrontation and chance to evaluate his own progress. Night before duel, he meditates under moon, listening to forest winds and distant streams. He visualizes phantom swords, recalling hall illusions, anchoring heart against fear or overconfidence rising. Dawn breaks over mountain peaks, arena fills with disciples, murmurs rising like buzzing insects. Trandeep steps onto stone platform, simple blue robe, silver aura faint yet steady. Lu Han waits opposite, white robe embroidered with golden sword, smirk brimming with arrogance. Elder referee announces duel rules. No lethal strikes, leaving arena counts as defeat immediately. Bell sounds, Lu Han lunges with triple strike technique, 3 dragons chained in storm. Trandeep pivots calmly, guiding sword key downward, deflecting blow like water deflecting stone. Crowd gasps as newcomer matches veteran's speed, eyes wide at controlled counter-movements. Sparks fly, blades colliding, creating ring of shimmering energy around dueling combatants intensely. Lu Han snarls, increasing speed, unleashing blade arcs like whips tearing mountain winds. Trandeep breathes calm heart breath, sinking key into feet, grounding like rooted pine. He counters with subtle thrust, light but heavy, forcing Lu Han backward to steps. Elder nods approvingly, sensing rare balance between offense and defense in Trandeep style. Crowd murmurs louder, tension rising as duel reaches equilibrium, both refusing retreat fiercely. Trandeep recalls first technique from ancient scrollmaster Lai gave him secretly recently. Silent shadow strike forms in mind, blade hidden within emptiness of his stance. He gathers sword key into tip, compressing until edges blur, breathing steady and calm. Lu Han charges again, overconfident, opening small gap in defense during furious rush forward. Trandeep vanishes from sight momentarily, reappearing behind opponent with blade at shoulder. Lu Han freezes, sensing cold steel brushing skin, realizing immediate defeat without second chance. Elder raises hand, declaring Trandeep victor, crowd erupting into stunned shouts and cheers loudly. Trandeep lowers sword respectfully, bowing to Lu Han without malice, face calm and humble. Lu Han clenches fists, pride shattered yet forced to bow, acknowledging undeniable defeat publicly. Master Lai smiles faintly from sidelines, witnessing students' growth and mastery of restraint skillfully. After duel ends, disciples whisper reverently, shifting perceptions of Trandeep's ability and destiny. Some admire his composure, others plot quietly, fearing his rapid rise threatens established order. Trandeep leaves arena, steps echoing softly, silver aura pulsing like heartbeat of mountain. Evening falls. He sits alone under pine tree, reflecting on duel and chosen path. He reopens ancient scroll, discovering hidden line of prophecy on final page mysteriously appearing. When sword heart settles, enemies awaken, text reads, shimmering faintly like starlight across parchment. He closes scrolls slowly, pulse quickening, feeling unknown gaze watching from distant unseen location. Wind shifts, carrying faint metallic scent, omen of approaching storms within martial world. Night deepens, torches flicker, mountain owls cry, echoing sense of looming confrontation inevitably coming. Trandeep whispers vow to protect friends and uncover truth behind his parents' disappearance fully. Next morning, he resumes training, practicing silent shadow strike repeatedly until movement becomes natural. His ki refines further, edges sharpen internally, merging intention with blade's invisible trajectory perfectly. Master Lai warns him politics within sect can kill faster than any opponent's sword strike. Tran Deep bows, internalizing wisdom, realizing cultivation path includes strategy beyond mere swordsmanship. Deeply, he senses faint resonance between pendant from Master Lai and mark on his forehead glowing. Pendant pulses softly, hinting at hidden connection to greater destiny outside Sword Spirit Hall. Tran Deep tests breathing method with pendant. Feeling spatial ripple briefly opening unseen door. He halts experiment, deciding to strengthen foundation before probing mysterious artifacts, secret prematurely. Later in library, he selects flowing cloud steps, movement technique complementing his hidden strike. Each afternoon, he practices footwork across courtyard stones, leaving faint silver traces underfoot. Nightly meditations deepen his sense of unity between environment, ki flow, and sword movement. His dreams fill with visions of unknown landscapes, dragons coiling around celestial swords shining. Master Lai senses change but chooses silence, trusting students' intuition and evolving path naturally. Disciples continue whispering about his pendant and new abilities, curiosity blending with superstition. Increasingly, Tran Deep stays humble, avoiding unnecessary conflict, focusing on steady cultivation and internal growth daily. One evening, sudden tremor shakes mountain, disrupting meditation, scrolls falling from library shelves. Silver light bursts from pendant, momentarily showing map-like pattern across stone floor, brightly. Master Lai rushes in, eyes narrowing at sight, recognizing ancient seal of lost sect. This is destiny calling, but you are not ready yet, Master Lai murmurs gravely. Tran Deep clenches fist, sensing powerful forces intertwining his future with hidden martial world. He trains harder, blending flowing cloud steps with silent shadow strikes seamlessly together daily. Movements become like wind and shadow merging, vanishing and reappearing without trace, unpredictably effectively. Lu Han watches secretly from afar, vowing silent revenge, studying Tran Deep's new techniques carefully. Sect elders debate quietly about whether to restrict Tran Deep's access to advanced teachings already. Master Lai defends student firmly, citing discipline and pure heart as reasons to continue. Tran Deep, unaware of political undercurrents, immersed in forging bond between blade and spirit deeply. Nights grow colder, storms gather over peaks, lightning illuminating Sword Spirit Hall dramatically frequently. He stands atop cliff, feeling wind slicing against skin, imagining future duels and journeys ahead. Memories of his humble village return, fueling resolve to rise beyond limitations of birth. He practices calm heart breath under storm, letting rain and thunder merge with sword ki. Master Lai tests him suddenly with faint strike, measuring reaction and composure under pressure. Tran Deep parries smoothly, eyes steady, showing integration of training and instinct perfectly harmonized. Teacher nods, acknowledging progress, hinting at next stage involving spiritual resonance with celestial swords hidden. Tran, deep intrigued, imagining legendary swords sleeping within distant forbidden realms awaiting destined wielder. Pendant glows brighter each day, synchronizing heartbeat with distant echo beyond sect's protective barriers strongly. He starts journaling dreams, noting repeating symbols, dragons circling swords under two suns shining. Master Lai reads journals secretly, recognizing prophecy pattern long thought forgotten by sect elders. Tran Deep unknowingly steps closer to destiny shaping, every breath forging link with ancient power. He ends each night kneeling before sword, vowing discipline, humility, and courage against all odds. Under moon's silver gaze, he senses invisible path opening beyond horizon, signaling true journey beginning. Dawn mist drifts over Sword Spirit Mountain. Tran Deep breathes calmly, sensing his new destiny clearly. Master Lai approaches silently, eyes filled with pride and hidden concern about coming dangerous path. Enough training here, he says softly, follow me to a deeper place of forging. Tran Deep wipes sweat from brow. Nodding without question, trusting Master Lai's guidance completely now. They descend through pine forest paths, footsteps echoing between ancient stones covered in moss silently. Stream rushes below narrow bridge, silver water reflecting morning sun like molten steel, shimmering brightly. Hidden cliff wall appears ahead, carved with faint sword reliefs, glowing under Master Lai's ki. Rock trembles, opening secret stairway downward, heat rising from deep within mountain's fiery heart. Tran Deep steps carefully, feeling hot air against his skin like dragon's breath coiling around. Tunnel widens into cavern lit by molten lava pool, hammering echoes filling air constantly. Blades rest on stone pedestals, glowing red, humming ancient resonance of countless battles past. Master Lai gestures toward empty pedestal, withdrawing unshaped sword blank from robe with solemn care. This will be your sword, he says, it shall grow with you, not before you. Tran Deep receives blade. Heat surging into palm, sensing potential beyond form within metal. Master Lai explains, forging of sword heart. Merging spirit, ki and will into weapon entirely. Tran Deep kneels, near lava pool, closing eyes, breathing deep, drawing ki from Dancian steadily. He channels Silverlight into blade, whispering silent vows learned from hardships endured previously. Metal vibrates faintly, responding to touch of his inner resolve and accumulated sword intent power. Master Lai watches without interference, trusting student to find path alone within trial's sacred heat. Memories rise. Humble village, parents' faces, sword spirit, hall illusions, duel with Luhan past. Each memory transforms into current of ki, flowing from heart into sword-like silver river. Sweat drips onto stone, instantly hissing away, air thick with smell of molten steel. Blade slowly glows brighter, silver vein forming along spine, pulsing to Tran Deep's heartbeat rhythmically. Do not stop, Master Lion tones. Push your thought beyond fear into Blade's hidden core. Tran Deep recalls vow of self-mastery, focusing deeper until sound fades into silent void completely. Suddenly a surge bursts, blade ringing like dragon's roar, echoing across cavern walls fiercely. Light explodes, lava pool shimmering, air trembling with unseen force of awakened sword heart energy. Master Lai rises, eyes widening, witnessing student achieve rare resonance between blade and soul fully. In that moment, Tran Deep becomes one with sword, no separation between flesh and steel. A voice echoes inside his mind. You have awakened me, bearer of silent path. The voice fades, leaving only aftertaste of cosmic wind and endless stars swirling softly. Tran Deep opens eyes, seeing blade now shining silver white, aura calm yet immeasurably deep. Master Lai approaches slowly, placing hand on student's shoulder, pride hidden beneath stern expression strongly. Good, he murmurs, but this is only beginning. Sword heart leads to greater unknowns. Tran Deep stands, blade steady, feeling new power inside, tranquil, yet immense, like hidden ocean. Master Lai gives him an old scroll map marked Sword Peak Ancient Platform. In crimson ink, travel here, he says, only sword heart wielders can pass. There you'll complete forging. Tran Deep bows, accepting mission, eyes reflecting both determination and cautious curiosity about coming journey. As they ascend secret stair, sunset light enters cavern, painting stone walls golden red. Outside, air feels sharper, senses heightened, each leaf's rustle distinct, heartbeat echoing like drum. That night, Tran Deep sits in room, blade across knees, recalling voice from blade deeply. Who spoke? He wonders, was it the sword or ancient spirit dwelling within its core? He breathes slowly, feeling faint pulse of blade matching own heart rhythm with perfect unity. Across sect courtyard, Lu Han watches window light, fists clenched, pride wounded, plotting silent revenge already. Rumors spread of Tran Deep's new sword, awakening envy, fear, and curiosity among disciples quickly. Master Lai senses political tension rising inside sect, but decides not to burden student yet. In dark forest beyond sect wall, cloaked figure whispers into Jade Token, reporting events secretly. The boy awakens sword heart, stranger murmurs, master must know. The prophecy begins unfolding now. Tran Deep dreams of two suns and a blade-splitting sky, dragons circling silently above. Dawn breaks, silver aura coiling around him as he practices breathing technique beside mountain stream. Sword feels lighter but heavier, paradox merging, each swing revealing new dimension of force subtly. Master Lai tests his movement unexpectedly, strikes swift as hawk, gauging reaction and composure truly. Tran Deep parries calmly, no tremor, integrating new resonance between intent and blade perfectly seamlessly. Teacher nods, acknowledging students' progress beyond expectation, hinting at next steps deeper into sect's mysteries. Tran Deep trains flowing cloud steps with new sword, movements blending shadow, wind, and flowing water. Each step leaves faint silver pattern on stone, echoing map's ancient sigil unconsciously during practice. He notices pendant, pulsing stronger, connected somehow to sword, heart, an unknown distant place. Night meditation reveals faint whisper, seek sword peak, complete the path. Unveil your hidden destiny. Clouds gather over mountains, lightning flickers like swords in sky, storm reflecting turmoil in martial world. Sect elders discuss quietly, debating whether Trandeep's rapid rise destabilizes delicate balance of power. Master Lai defends him fiercely, citing discipline, humility, and rare alignment of heart and blade. Trandeep remains unaware of debates, focusing inward, refining key lines through new breathing patterns steadily. Each inhalation draws mountain's essence. Each exhalation projects Sword's silent will into surrounding environments softly. Nights grow colder, yet his aura glows warmer, silver strands weaving around him like cocoon. He recalls Map's mountain tower, wondering what trials await at Sword Peak ancient platform soon. His sword occasionally hums at night, as if impatient, resonating with far-off call of destiny. Trandeep begins journaling dreams, noting repeated symbols of dragons, 2 suns, and endless stairs. Master Lai secretly reads notes, recognizing prophecy of sect's founding, long lost in hidden scrolls. Trandeep practices, merging silent shadow strike with sword heart energy, producing ghost-like thrust impossible to track. Students watch in awe, unable to comprehend his movement, whispering myths about reincarnated sword spirit power. Lu Han vows harder training, swearing to reclaim honor, eyes burning with desperate resolve. Late night. Cloaked agents, spread across mountains, seeking relics connected to sword heart and ancient prophecies gradually. Trandeep focuses on inner calm, resisting urge to show off new strength, staying humble. He spends evenings under starry sky, blade upright, meditating on unity of heaven and sword. Pendant and sword begin glowing simultaneously, brief spatial ripple distorting courtyard stones beneath feet briefly. Not yet, he whispers, holding back curiosity, fearing premature plunge into unknown before proper foundation. Master Lai arranges journey preparation, gathering herbs, scrolls, and secret letters for Sword Peak expedition soon. Trandeep sharpens mind as much as blade, reading tactical scrolls about ancient sect rivalries. Night wind carries faint metallic scent, omen of bloodshed awaiting beyond protective sect walls. A raven lands on window, black feather marked with silver rune, disappearing after delivering omen. Trandeep senses, test ahead beyond simple training, a confrontation of will, heart, and destiny. He redoubles practice of calm heart breath, grounding spirit, even as storm of fate approaches. Sword feels like old friend now, each swing a conversation, each hum a whispered answer. Master Lai begins teaching secret resonance chants, linking sword key to celestial patterns above sky. Trandeep learns to listen between notes of silence, hearing hidden music of sword Tao. Each night thunder rolls, echoing forging hammer deep within mountain, mirroring his internal transformation steadily. Pendant reveals faint constellation when moonlight strikes, matching symbol on Map's tower exactly. He realizes Map, sword, pendant, and dreams, interlocked puzzle guiding him to greater truth entirely. Cloaked stranger reports again. He's almost ready to move toward the tower, voice trembling with awe. In shadows, powerful figure smiles coldly, plotting to intercept boy. Before he reaches Sword Peak successfully, Trandeep senses unseen watchers, sharp intuition pricking skin, but chooses to remain focused and steady. He practices flow until exhaustion, sleeping, sitting up with blade upright before dawn's first light. Master Lai nods secretly, knowing students' discipline surpasses previous generations, deserving of ancient inheritance waiting ahead. Sect elders send hidden guards, half to protect, half to monitor boy's extraordinary evolution quietly. Trandeep dreams again of dragons dissolving into swords, swords dissolving into stars beyond sky. Waking, he writes prophecy line in journal. Sword heart awakens. Destiny crosses forbidden threshold soon. Blade glows brighter at sunrise, silver threads swirling into spirals around hilt like living stream. He kneels before blade, promising humility, courage, and steadfast path no matter coming storms fiercely. Outside window, storm breaks, lightning striking mountain peak, echoing swords hum in perfect harmony loudly. Trandeep rises at dawn, ready to begin journey toward Sword Peak, ancient platform, fate awaiting. Trandeep stands before the towering Sword Spirit Hall, mist swirling, heart steady yet trembling silently. Black stone pillars rise like ancient giants, silver runes glowing faintly across their engraved surfaces. He recalls Master Lai's words about courage, discipline, and facing inner fears without hesitation. The mountain wind carries whispers of swords, echoing legends carved into the stones. Master Lai appears behind him, eyes deep as night, asking softly if he feels ready. Tran Deep nods silently, resolve shining in his eyes like cold morning steel. Master Lai channels white energy into the rune, unlocking the hall's massive sealed door. Stone doors groan open, revealing darkness within, streaked by floating silver threads of light. Cold air rushes out carrying sword intent older than mountains and deeper than oceans. Tran Deep steps forward, crossing the threshold into destiny, leaving behind his former self. Instantly, the world shifts into endless space filled with countless floating silver swords. Each blade hums softly, pointing downward, radiating pressure that tests his spirit. A voice like merged swords resounds within his mind, demanding, "Who are you truly?" Tran Deep answers firmly he is himself, built on determination, not bloodline or fate. Hundreds of blades vibrate violently, silver light cascading like falling stars around him. A massive sword force descends from above, challenging his heart's unyielding edge. He draws his silver sword from his waist, slashing upward with unwavering focus. Sparks explode as energies collide, shaking the infinite hall of blades. A thin glowing path appears ahead, formed from shattered sword-light fragments. Without hesitation, Tran Deep walks the path, sword ready, breathing calm steady breaths. 3 figures emerge. His child self, his current self, and a cold future self. Child self whispers doubts, trembling voice echoing fears buried deep inside. Current self stands firm, yet eyes flicker with uncertainty between 2 destinies. Future self smirks, radiating terrifying sword energy, mocking his struggle for purity. Tran Deep remembers Master Lai's lesson. Sword has no heart. Wielder gives it purpose. He raises his sword toward all 3 figures, voice steady yet resolute. Declares he will not choose oneself but unite them all as one. Light bursts from his blade, merging 3 images into streams entering his body. Inner power surges, sword heart stabilized, a new calm rising within him. The illusion trembles, revealing another door inscribed with even older characters. The door opens onto the true sword spirit hall, vast as a valley. Black stone floor stretches outward, echoing each footstep like rolling thunder. At the center stands a dark pedestal holding the fabled sword spirit Master Blade. 12 stone swordsman statues encircle the pedestal, eyes closed, hands gripping stone weapons. Tran Deep steps closer, feeling immense pressure thickening the air. As he nears, 12 statues awaken, eyes glowing crimson like hidden embers. Stone blades rise simultaneously, pointing at him with silent lethal intent. The hall darkens, only runes pulsing like distant stars in deep night. First stone swordsman attacks with a sweeping strike, heavy as a mountain. Tran Deep pivots, parries with silver blade, sparks erupt across the floor. Second and third statues charge, coordinated like ancient warriors bound by oath. He breathes steadily, channeling sword energy through his limbs, moving like flowing water. Fourth statue thrusts from behind. He spins, deflecting with a mirrored strike. Each clash rings like bells of war, echoing through the colossal hall. Sweat drips but his eyes remain calm, sword heart sharpening under pressure. Statues crack under his strikes, fragments scattering like shattered constellations. His movements grow swifter, blending offense and defense in seamless flowing arcs. Ninth statue lunges low, he counters high, flipping in midair. 10th statue smashes downward. He sidesteps and cuts its weapon in 2. 11th statue advances with relentless thrusts. He meets each strike with perfect timing. 12th statue, strongest of all, summons a cyclone of stone swords around him. Tran Deep centers his breathing, channels every ounce of energy into one final strike. Silver blade glows, cutting through cyclone and statue alike, dust exploding outward. Silence falls, broken statues lying like ancient sacrifices to the sword path. The pedestal ahead glows brighter, runes pulsing like a beating heart. Tran Deep approaches, every step echoing his hard-won victories across the hall. His hand reaches for the legendary sword spirit Master Blade. Cold energy rushes up his arm, testing his vow and intentions. A deep ancient voice speaks inside his skull, demanding a sacred oath. Tran Deep swears to wield the blade, not for hatred but for truth. Light flares, blade trembles, then slides free from stone, like water, from ice. The hall erupts in silver brilliance, runes blazing brighter than noon sun. Pillars hum with power, sending beams of sword light skyward beyond the mountain. Outside disciples see a massive silver column piercing the clouds, gasping in awe. Master Lai smiles faintly, murmuring pride that his student surpassed every trial. Tran Deep feels his body lighten, strength flowing like endless rivers inside. The sword spirit, Master Blade, becomes part of him, breathing with his soul. He senses memories of countless past wielders whispering their lessons silently. Visions of battles, long forgotten, flash before his eyes, imprinting new techniques. Energy coils around him like silver dragons weaving protective circles. He lifts the blade high, feeling its weight vanish, merging with his will. Sword heart now burns steady, unshakable as mountain stone, yet fluid as wind. The hall quiets, statues gone, replaced by faint echoes of ancient swordsmen. He looks back toward the entrance, realizing no barrier holds him anymore. Outside, morning sun breaks through clouds, lighting peaks with golden fire. Tran Deep steps toward the exit, blade at his side, aura transformed. Disciples kneel far below, sensing the rise of a new swordmaster. Master Lai gazes upward, whispering at last. The hall has accepted him. The mountain trembles as sealed power releases into the world. Birds take flight, scattering like ink across the pale sky. Tran Deep inhales deeply, feeling mountain air crisp and filled with possibilities. He reflects on the boy he once was, weak and uncertain, yet determined. The sword path has no end, only higher peaks to climb beyond sight. His journey now carries the weight of the Sword Spirit Hall's legacy. He vows silently to protect the innocent and unravel the mysteries of cultivation. Silverblade hums softly, attuning to his heartbeat and guiding his next steps. Energy ripples outward, invisible but sensed by every master within 100 miles. Whispers spread across sects about a young swordsman wielding the hall's greatest blade. Tran Deep steps onto a new plateau, horizon expanding into infinite unknown. Mountains stretch far, rivers glimmer like veins of silver under the sun. He walks alone but not lonely, carrying countless teachings within his blade. Master Lai watches silently, knowing this disciple will carve new paths for future generations. Clouds swirl above, forming the shape of a vast sword across the sky. Tran Deep's aura aligns with heaven and earth, steady, fierce, yet harmonious. His footfalls echo destiny, each step forging a legend whispered by mountains. The wind carries scents of pine, steel, and ancient power, blending into serenity. He glances at the blade, seeing his reflection merged with the sword spirit. A faint smile crosses his lips, rare but sincere, born from newfound strength. Far peaks beckon, promising trials, friendships, and hidden truths waiting to unfold. With calm determination, Tran Deep strides onward, the sword spirit Master Blade gleaming beside him, always. Dawn glows on Tianyun Mountain as Tran Deep stands silently, gripping his silver spirit sword tightly. Mist rises around the peaks, carrying echoes of ancient chants and hidden sword techniques, long forgotten. Master Lai approaches slowly, eyes filled with pride and caution about the path ahead. You have opened a door, few can enter, yet greater challenges await beyond, he warns. Tran Deep nods, knowing power and responsibility now weigh equally upon his shoulders and heart. Together they descend winding stone steps lined with towering pines, whispering secrets of old battles. Other disciples bow respectfully, their gazes mixing awe, envy, and quiet calculating intent. Rumors spread swiftly like wind, turning his name into a banner both feared and admired. At the mountain foot, Tran Deep sees the training lake where he first held wooden swords. Memories flood back of trembling hands and humble beginnings before destiny unveiled its secret keys. He refrains from displaying his new power, honoring the simplicity of his early days. Night falls. In a modest room he meditates beneath moonlight, sword across his knees. Energy swirls inside him, soft as silk yet sharp enough to split unseen barriers. He senses the birth of Sword Heart Silence, a realm beyond mere techniques or forms. A quiet knock breaks meditation. Dipe Thursday enters carrying fragrant tea, eyes shining concern. You've truly become the spirit sword heir, she whispers, half proud and half worried. I've only taken the first step. The road ahead remains long, he replies calmly. They sit together, steam rising from cups, blending herbal scents with mountain night air. She warns of envy and schemes. His new title draws hidden daggers from shadowed hearts. He vows not to let fear guide him, or his blade will corrode within. Morning brings a simple ceremony. Elders and disciples gather under faded banners of the sect. Master Lai announces Tran Deep as the official inheritor of the Spirit Sword legacy. Applause echoes, yet cold eyes lurk among warm smiles, hinting at silent rivalries emerging. Tran Deep senses their intentions but remains unmoved, embodying stillness within rising storm clouds. That evening he stands on a stone bridge, moonlight painting silver across the river. He reflects that the sword chooses truth, not safety, and never walks a crooked path. 7 days later, Master Lai calls him into the candlelit study filled with ancient scrolls. "Leave the mountain," says Master Lai. "Find your sword heart within the living world." Tran Deep bows, understanding that real cultivation unfolds beyond temple walls and practiced routines. Packing lightly, he carries robes, herbs, a notebook, and the luminous spirit sword itself. Dipe Thursday gives him protective charms, eyes trembling with unspoken feelings for her senior. "Promise you'll return," she murmurs. He answers only with steady eyes and a faint smile. He steps down the mountain path alone, each footfall echoing freedom and uncertain destiny. Forest turns to plain. Plain turns to bustling markets filled with scents of strange spices. He listens to merchants gossip about martial heroes and hidden sect wars shaping the land. His name drifts among rumors already, though many doubt one so young holds real power. Near sunset, black-clad figures block the road, eyes like blades thirsting for his sword. "Leave the weapon, perhaps live," sneers their leader, unaware of the storm within Tran Deep. He draws the spirit sword. Silver light arcs, wind splitting under unseen cutting force. One strike sends the leader flying, trees behind shredded into drifting green splinters. The others scatter, terrified, sensing mercy only by his choice, not their strength. Tran Deep sheaths his blade calmly, remembering his vow to wield power with restraint. Night finds him in a quiet village, where children stare at his shimmering sword. "Is that a divine blade?" asks a boy, eyes full of innocent wonder. "It's only a sword," Tran Deep smiles. "What matters is the heart holding it." Villagers whisper legends. Some fearful, some reverent, each word weaving his growing reputation further. He travels through lands plagued by beasts, corruption, and oppressed minor sects, seeking hope. Each encounter teaches him new contrasts between kindness and cruelty, light and hidden darkness. He intervenes where he can, his sword striking but also inspiring silent courage. Spirit sword hums at night, resonating with unseen energies flowing through earth and stars. Tran Deep senses threads of sword force in trees, rivers, and people's unspoken dreams. He learns to harmonize moves with those rhythms, each strike like a natural breath. This merging marks a step toward ultimate unity between blade and life's ceaseless flow. At a forest edge, he meditates, feeling the cosmos swirl within his still core. A voice calls from shadows. "You're the spirit's sword heir." Soft but cold. A woman steps forth, black robe fluttering, eyes sharp yet sorrowful, like endless night. "I'm a messenger from a realm you've never heard. Storms are only beginning," she says. Tran Deep rises slowly, steady gaze meeting hers. "I've prepared my whole life," he replies. She smirks faintly. "Then may your strength match your promises," vanishing into drifting mist. Her warning lingers like frost along his spine, a prelude to unseen conspiracies. Stars blaze above. Tran Deep contemplates Master Lai, Dipe Thursday, and unknown paths ahead. He feels no fear, only awakening clarity, sword spirit vibrating like a distant bell. In his mind appear visions, enemies, allies, trials, blending love, revenge, and self-discovery. He embraces this fate, knowing cultivation means walking into storms rather than fleeing them. Each step beyond the mountain deepens his resolve, weaving his legend across unseen lands. Children's laughter mixes with cries of beggars, a world of contrasts feeding his growth. He studies maps by firelight, charting a course toward forbidden valleys whispered in old tales. Rumors tell of hidden libraries where lost sword arts sleep beneath dust and illusions. His journey expands beyond survival, becoming a quest to unify fragments of cosmic blade wisdom. Nights under open sky forge patience. Days on dusty roads, temper, muscle, and spirit. Spirit sword glows faintly, echoing constellations overhead as if aligning with celestial forces. Tran Deep's aura stabilizes, radiating calm power, drawing both admiration and dangerous curiosity. He dreams of sword dragons, circling mountains, awakening mysteries bound to his destiny. Dawn after dawn he trains, refining control over silent yet devastating inner currents. In small villages he helps farmers, mending fences with subtle energy, healing wounds quietly. People gift him bread, herbs, and stories, weaving him deeper into collective hopes. Across riverboats, he listens to minstrels sing tales of ancient heroes, absorbing hidden clues. His presence unsettles bandits, inspires students, and intrigues wandering masters, testing his convictions. Through all, he remains humble, remembering trembling hands on the wooden sword long ago. Each confrontation tests not only skill but his vow to never misuse inherited power. He faces wild beasts in mountain passes, subduing rather than slaughtering when possible. He saves a merchant convoy, learning rumors of an upcoming martial tournament of legends. Whispered hints of dark sect alliances reach him, threads leading to his unknown adversaries. He senses larger forces steering chaos, shaping events to draw him into conflict. Yet his heart remains centered, spirit sword a beacon rather than a weapon of fear. He writes notes nightly, forging his own philosophy, blending compassion with unstoppable edge. Moonlight glints on blade, reminding him of Daipthu's tearful farewell at the gate. He pictures Master Lai watching from afar, proud yet worried for his wandering disciple. When storms rise, he shelters under trees, meditating instead of cursing hardships. He feels the universe respond, feeding strength into his marrow like hidden streams. New techniques blossom unbidden, merging legacy and innovation into seamless flows of energy. Bandits whisper Silver Sword Ghost when he passes, never sure he's human or spirit. Town elders invite him for tea, seeking wisdom as much as protection. He declines titles and gifts, holding only his sword and unyielding integrity. Nights grow colder, but his inner fire burns hotter with purpose and clarity. At cliff edges he practices strikes, each swing parting wind into spirals of light. His legend spreads beyond borders, carried by merchants, wandering monks, and frightened enemies. He prepares for unknown trials, sharpening spirit as much as blade, for storms to come. Beneath endless stars, he whispers his vow again. To protect, to discover, to grow. The path ahead glows with uncertainty yet promise, each step forging Tran Deep's immortal destiny. Morning wind sweeps the dusty road as Tran Deep walks steadily toward the borderlands, silent resolve inside. His silver sword hangs behind, shimmering softly, echoing ancient promises made atop the sacred mountain. Small tea house appears near the crossroads, its wooden sign faded from countless years of sun. Inside, merchants whisper of taxes, bandits, and a martial arts tournament approaching in distant Von HCC. Tran Deep orders hot tea, his calm eyes scanning the room for hidden intentions and danger. Old shopkeeper notices the sword, voice trembling slightly, asking if Tran Deep belongs to wandering warriors. Tran Deep smiles faintly, replying he's only a traveler passing by, concealing his true identity. 3 riders clad in black enter, their gaze sharp as hawks, heavy with unspoken threat. He senses faint murderous intent swirling around them, like invisible blades drawn under the table. The riders drink quickly, glance at him once more, then disappear into the dusty street outside. Tran Deep finishes his tea, pays quietly, stepping out under morning sun toward bustling marketplace. Stalls overflow with herbs, spirit stones, talismans, each carrying whispers of power and hidden histories. Children run between vendors, laughter mixing with cries of hawkers, selling potions and old scrolls. He buys a tattered book Sword Dao Miscellany to bridge old teachings and today's uncertain path. Suddenly, a young girl runs toward him, terrified, eyes pleading, "Help me, they're coming." For tattooed thugs with hawk emblems chase her, swords raised, scattering townsfolk like frightened birds. Tran Deep steps forward calmly, drawing half his blade, silver light slicing through tension-filled air. With one move, he disables them, tendons severed but lives spared, warning them of cruelty. The girl kneels gratefully, promising eternal thanks, but Tran Deep gently tells her to flee. Town whispers rise, calling him the Silver Swordsman, rumor spreading faster than wildfire across streets. That night, he rents a humble inn at city's edge, moonlight painting walls, pale silver. Sitting cross-legged, he cultivates inner energy, breathing slow, sword resting across his knees like guardian. His aura expands outward, forming phantom wings of light echoing his evolving sword spirit. Suddenly, a sound outside window breaks silence, footsteps light as drifting feathers on roof. He opens eyes, sensing presence before voice calls softly, "Are you Tran Deep?" Black-clad woman from forest appears, eyes deep as night, bearing secret knowledge and tests. She warns of traps surrounding his journey, asking whether he's truly prepared to walk forward. He answers calmly, "I am ready," gripping sword, heart steady as mountain stones under storms. She attacks suddenly, black energy darting forth like serpents, testing his reaction and skill. Silver arc slices darkness clean, papers fly, their duel contained within small inn's boundaries. She laughs softly, impressed by his growth, yet reminds him power alone cannot save him. Trust no one quickly. Even me, she whispers before vanishing into swirling shadowy mist. Trant Deep lowers sword, feeling both solitude and clarity, night air cold on his face. Next morning, he departs city, road stretching endless under clouds, birds flying free overhead. He repeats her warning inwardly, shaping it into mantra. Sword path alone. Trust measured. Vast grasslands open ahead, dotted with wildflowers bending in wind like bowing to destiny. Locals speak of an ancient silent sword platform atop a forbidding mountain ridge. Legends say, enduring its winds, 1 hour reveals whispers of old swords and truth. Trant Deep feels drawn, deciding to climb, test his will beyond any teacher's reach. Path grows steep, rocks sharp, winds screaming, but his resolve burns stronger with every step. He reaches stone platform carved with faded script. Sword silent, heart still, truth revealed, setting sword before him. He closes eyes, steadying breath, merging spirit and steel as one. Storm whips his clothes, dust lashes face, yet he remains unmoving like ancient pillar. Time stretches, visions flicker. Seas of blood, mountains of bone, and distant emerald doorway. A whisper reaches his mind. Are you ready? Echoing like eternity from sword's memory. He answers with silence, heart still, letting energy flow as if he's ocean and sky. Hours pass unseen. When he opens eyes, sword glows faintly, patterns shifting across steel. New strength seeps into veins, soft but sharp, a second heartbeat resonating with sword's pulse. He realizes first trial outside his sect completed, yet countless unseen roads lie before him. Dusk descends as he walks down mountain, shadows lengthening like specters of challenges ahead. At campfire beneath starlight, he writes notes. Silent sword platform tested my heart and blade. Day 11, off mountain, rumors swirl, but path clearer though dangers still unseen. He records. Flames dance, reflecting in his eyes, a mix of exhaustion, calm, and sharpened intent. He gazes upward at constellations, each star like a spark guiding his unknown journey. In distant darkness, 2 figures watch him, cloaked in secrets, whispering plans quietly together. One says, he's the inheritor. Soon he must taste true fear beyond these small trials. Another replies, not yet. Let him grow. Only then can we seize what he carries. Their voices fade, leaving night wind to howl, carrying scent of approaching conflicts unseen. Trant Deep senses presence yet chooses calm. Remembering sword teachings. Danger known, yet step forward. He lays sword beside him. Drifting into light sleep, spirit awake as vigilant hawk. Dreams come vivid. Rivers of silver light merging into a vast blade spanning entire sky. He stands upon it, feeling both tiny and infinite, weight of destiny pressing gently. A voice from void says, beyond power lies choice. Choose wisely before shadows claim you. He awakens before dawn, sweat on brow, but eyes glimmer with newfound understanding inside. Packing belongings. He starts walking again, feet firm on path no one else can take. Farmers wave as he passes, sensing quiet dignity and power beneath his simple traveler's robe. He helps lift fallen cart for an old man, receiving blessings whispered under tired breath. Road turns rocky again, trees dense, insects singing, marking boundary of next unknown territory. River crossing ahead sparkles with morning sun, reflecting glints like countless small swords dancing. He pauses, drinking water from cupped hands, feeling coolness steady nerves before journey's next stage. In nearby village, rumor spreads of masked warriors seeking the silver swordsman with bounty. He overhears but remains unshaken, understanding challenges will come like waves upon the shore. Children ask for sword tricks. He smiles, drawing shapes of light without harming anyone. Elderly woman gifts him amulet carved from peachwood. For protection, she whispers kindly. He thanks her, slipping it beside tattered book, symbolizing connections forming beyond mountain's isolation. Night falls again, moon rising red like omen, coyotes howling from unseen ridges beyond. He practices silent footwork under moonlight, refining balance between motion and stillness, strike and breath. Sword gleams like captured lightning, arcs tracing patterns older than kingdoms, whispering forgotten names. Meditation deepens, he feels lines between self and sword blur, edges dissolve into awareness. He recalls master's teaching. Sword path isn't conquering others, but revealing hidden depths within yourself. Dawn brings new resolve, eyes steady, footsteps sure, moving toward destiny written yet unseen. Hills roll under clouds, each peak a silent witness to his steady inward transformation. A hawk circles overhead, its cry echoing his own spirit's call for freedom. Suddenly, arrows strike near his feet, testing reflexes, shadows darting between rocks nearby. He parries one arrow midair, slicing it clean, scanning terrain for hidden attackers silently. Realizing they're scouts, he chooses not to chase, saving strength for larger battles looming. Continuing forward, he senses lines of fate converging, weaving tighter with every league traveled. The silver sword pulses gently, responding to unseen currents of world beyond human grasp. His thoughts return to prophecy whispered by sword spirit. In darkness, true light awakens. He repeats it softly, forging it into mantra-shaping blade and soul simultaneously. Twilight sets in as he finds secluded grove, fireflies glowing like tiny stars around. He sits, breathing rhythm of earth, merging heartbeats with living world surrounding his quiet vigil. Night creatures stir, but none approach. Aura of his cultivation wards danger away unseen. A soft rain begins, washing dust, cooling fire, symbolizing renewal after trials endured. He watches droplets roll down sword's edge, glistening like liquid mercury under fading moon. Inner voice whispers, "This is only the beginning. Prepare for storms beyond comprehension." He accepts, smiling faintly, knowing each step strengthens blade and spirit for coming conflicts. Sleep takes him lightly, dreams weaving threads of silver and shadow into vast tapestry. Stars wheel overhead, ancient constellations shifting, hinting at destinies neither gods nor men control. At dawn's first light, Tran Deep rises once again, walking forward, the silver sword gleaming anew. Mist covers the forbidden valley as Tran Deep approaches the dark land's entrance slowly. Cold wind cuts his skin, carrying whispers of ancient spirits lurking in unseen places. His silver spirit sword vibrates faintly, sensing ominous energy surrounding the rocky path. Determined eyes reflect the sky's dim glow, holding memories of training under Master Li. A faint signal from the talisman glows, warning him of reversed spiritual flows nearby. He recalls his master's words about facing 3 trials testing heart, courage, and destiny. Trees twist unnaturally, roots forming grotesque faces glaring at him with silent menace. Tran Deep steadies his breathing, focusing inner energy to remain calm and balanced here. A cloaked man appears ahead, his presence heavy like mountains blocking radiant light. "You hold the spirit sword," the stranger says, voice hoarse yet strangely commanding. He introduces himself as Hak Fong, former guardian of a fallen righteous sect once proud. Hak Fong warns about 3 layered formations guarding the Darkland's deepest chamber. The first formation reflects memories, showing past attachments as illusions made real. Tran Deep nods quietly, understanding these tests are internal battles shaping his destiny. They walk together along cracked stones, mist thickening with every step taken ahead. Suddenly, shimmering images rise: his childhood village, his parents, and old training grounds. The air fills with laughter from long ago, tempting him to forget his current path. He remembers Master Li's teaching. A mirror reflects yet keeps nothing inside forever. Closing eyes, he releases attachment, letting illusions dissolve like mist in rising sunlight. The first formation shatters silently, revealing a narrow stairway carved from dark crystal. Hak Fong nods approvingly, muttering about rare calmness within such a young swordsman's heart. The second formation emerges as a black forest, eyes glowing crimson between thick trunks. Beastly roars echo like thunder, shaking ground beneath his feet with vibrating terror waves. Each strike he makes spawns more creatures, endless nightmare feeding upon his aggression. Tran Deep halts his sword, centers his breathing, letting fear melt under silent focus. Silver Spirit sword dims, his mind clears, and creatures evaporate into ash before vanishing. Hak Fong watches, astonished, whispering, "He truly understands the still heart of sword." The forest clears, revealing a floating bridge leading toward a radiant palace beyond. This third formation radiates beauty, columns of light reaching skies, like celestial stairways. Inside stands an image of Tran, Deep crowned, worshipped, and ruling countless kneeling figures. A voice tempts him. "Abandon your bonds, accept power, and become this eternal sovereign." He smiles gently, speaking softly. Sword exists not to rule but to understand oneself deeply. The palace collapses like glass, illusions breaking into endless glittering fragments. Mid-air, his sword heart ignites, bright as moonlight, slicing away last chains of desire completely. Hak Fong steps forth, bowing low, acknowledging completion of the Darklands' final trial. A barren plain now stretches before them, sky dark, yet clearer than misty entrance. He hands Tran Deep a sealed letter containing directions to Vanhack City upcoming. Tran Deep takes letter, feeling new strength coursing quietly through tempered veins within. Campfire flickers at night's edge, shadows dancing like silent spirits upon rocky ground. He studies the letter carefully, noticing the name Bloodsword Society among guests. Anger stirs in him, recalling tragedies caused by their hidden assassins long ago. Silver Sword glows faintly, reflecting flames as determination hardens in his focused gaze. He whispers vows to protect allies, seek truth, and confront enemies without retreat. Meditation stabilizes his energy, weaving sword intent into a calm flowing river within. He dreams of Dipe Thursday and Master Li, voices guiding him through unseen paths ahead. Dawn arrives with golden beams spilling across silent stones and withered grass below. Tran Deep walks eastward, each step resonating with Earth's pulse, merging man and nature. Birds return cautiously, sensing balanced aura replacing once chaotic dark energy everywhere. Silver Spirit Sword rings softly, echoing promise of new challenges and greater growth soon. His silhouette stretches long beneath sunrise, a lone swordsman marching toward destiny quietly. Around him mountains fade, horizon opening like a scroll revealing yet unwritten tales. He senses distant currents of power converging at Vanhack City's ancient arena grounds. Rumors speak of a tournament, hidden conspiracies, and dangerous alliances forming secretly. Tran Deep knows his journey has shifted from learning to actively shaping coming history. He breathes deeply, steady heartbeat matching rhythm of rising winds across silent plains. Memories of 3 trials remain, marking permanent scars of wisdom inside his evolving soul. Past illusions, present fears, future temptations, he murmurs. All now passed behind. Hak Fong's shadow fades, his duty finished, leaving Tran Deep to walk alone forward. A flock of black crows disperses, symbolizing release of curses binding this land eternally. Ground underfoot grows fertile again, grasses sprouting where darkness once dominated hopelessly. Sword heart pulses quietly, stronger, deeper, like a crystal lake reflecting endless sky. His senses sharpen, feeling hidden energies weaving networks like invisible threads surrounding. He tests new power with subtle movement, blade humming without striking, channeling pure intent. The path ahead divides into 3, each marked by symbols unknown to mortal scholars. He chooses eastern route, trusting intuition, forged through hardship and relentless inner discipline. Breeze carries scent of distant sea, mingling with mountain resin and scorched stone. Tran Deep pauses briefly, watching clouds form shapes resembling ancient swords cutting horizons. He envisions coming duel with Bloodsword Society's masters, testing new level of mastery. Determination fills him like fire, tempered by ice, stable yet unyielding, pure yet fierce. His footwork now lighter, blending martial rhythm with flowing natural energy around. Landscape shifts gradually from barren plains to rolling hills dotted with silver streams. Travelers pass, bowing respectfully, sensing sword aura radiating subtle but commanding presence. He speaks kindly, offering guidance, remembering lessons of humility amidst rising reputation. At night he trains under stars, refining techniques gained from Darklands trials. Sword arcs trace constellations, connecting heaven's patterns with Earth's living heartbeat. Energy surges through meridians, forming luminous network like dragon veins, awakening slowly. Tran Deep contemplates next stage, integrating spirit, sword, and heart into seamless unity. He practices silent stance, merging breath with whispering winds passing across fields. Eyes closed, he senses distant footsteps, shadows of future adversaries approaching inevitably. Letter's map glows faintly under moonlight, hinting hidden runes only visible at night. Decoding them reveals secret rendezvous points of Bloodsword agents near Vanhack. He memorizes every detail, burning them into mind to plan careful interception strategy. His campfire dwindles to embers, sparks rising like lost souls dancing toward sky. Dreams return of illusions broken, forging clarity and calmness deeper within his being. Morning dew clings to grass as he resumes journey, footsteps soundless yet resolute. Mountains tower ahead, echoing cries of hawks, circling high above hidden cliffs. He tightens grip on Silver Spirit Sword, feeling warmth like trusted companion's hand. His reflection in blade shows not boyish face, but tempered warrior's steady gaze. Villagers whisper of rising hero crossing dark lands, cleansing cursed mists without violence. Tran Deep remains humble, speaking little, letting deeds define his growing reputation quietly. A sudden storm bursts, rain washing away remaining traces of dark energy's grip. Lightning illuminates sword's edge, thunder resonating with heartbeat of determined swordsman walking. He takes shelter under ancient tree carved with runes from forgotten civilization's lore. Studying carvings reveals prophecy of a silver blade bearer confronting crimson shadow. He realizes his journey mirrors prophecy, threads of fate weaving tighter around destiny. Storm passes, leaving rainbow arcs like spiritual bridges spanning opposite worlds together. Tran Deep steps into sunlight again, aura refined, path illuminated with newfound clarity. Each step echoes vow. Protect innocence, uphold justice, and pursue truth beyond illusions. Ahead lies Vanhack City, arena of trials, alliances, betrayals, and ultimate confrontations. Tran Deep walks on, silver spirit sword gleaming, carrying unshakable heart forged in darkness. Morning mist lingers over rolling plains as Tran Deep approaches the grand gates of Vanhack City. Towering walls rise high, decorated with carved cranes and protective sigils gleaming under pale sunlight. Merchants shout prices, guards patrol, and the smell of street food fills crowded air. Tran Deep hides his aura, blending with travelers, silently studying every detail of bustling marketplace. He recalls Hak Fong's warning. This city hides both dragons and snakes beneath silk smiles. Passing under archway, he sees banners of many sects fluttering, announcing the coming martial tournament. Stone-paved streets lead to wooden buildings carved with flying crane motifs and ancient poems. He chooses an inn called Blue Crane House, known for its quiet corners and hidden networks. Sitting by the window, Tran Deep sips tea while scanning secretive figures whispering upstairs. A masked man studies a map, fingers tracing routes like a spider weaving intricate webs. Suddenly, Dipe Thursday enters, wearing white silk, eyes sharp but shadowed with silent worry. They exchange greetings softly, tension melting as old memories from Sword Spirit Hall resurface. She tells of assassins disappearing, rumors of Blood Sword Society moving unseen across city streets. Tran Deep listens, brow furrowed, sensing deeper conspiracies hiding behind tournament preparations. He orders food quietly, eyes never leaving masked men plotting under dim lantern light. Dipe Thursday leans closer, whispering coded phrases, describing infiltration attempts into major sects. Tran Deep murmurs. Blood Sword Society plans to seize 7-star sword manual during event. She nods gravely, hand trembling as she slides hidden message across wooden table carefully. Outside, bells toll noon, echoing across towers, scattering flocks of white birds skyward. Their conversation masked by noise, yet the masked observer notes every subtle gesture intently. Afternoon wanes, leaving long shadows, streets glowing under rows of red paper lanterns. They exit in together, moving through crowded alleys filled with traveling performers and merchants. Vanhack City at night resembles a festival but conceals countless secret deals and betrayals. A beggar by fire signals with subtle hand sign known only to Hak Fong's allies. Tran Deep kneels, receiving folded paper carrying coordinates for clandestine meeting tomorrow night. The message reads, Third Watch, West Market Ruins. Blood Sword Society transaction. He pockets paper, nodding silently, heart steady yet pulse of anticipation quickening underneath. Dipe Thursday whispers. Dangerous path ahead. We must prepare our hearts and weapons carefully. In a rented room, Tran Deep sits cross-legged, meditating, while moonlight bathes wooden floor. Energy flows within meridians, calming turbulent thoughts, weaving sword intent with breath rhythm. Dipe Thursday watches from opposite corner, candlelight dancing across her determined expression quietly. She confesses her fear but vows to stand beside him even in deadly storm ahead. Tran Deep smiles faintly. Sword drawn not for show but to protect what is rightfully sacred. Night deepens, city noise fading, leaving only cricket chirps echoing through distant corridors. Third watch arrives. They slip from in like shadows, silent yet alert for danger. West Market ruins lie desolate, once lively stalls, now crumbling stones under wavering lantern light. Figures gather carrying wooden crates, faces hidden, voices hushed like conspiratorial whispers. At center stands Iron Blood, crimson robes flowing, aura oppressive like thunderclouds descending. He growls. 7-star sword manual must be ours during the upcoming grand tournament. Subordinates bow deeply. REPORTING. Infiltrations and bribed guards across 3 major sects stealthily. Dipe Thursday trembles slightly but Tran Deep steadies her hand. whispering reassurance with calm tone. They remain hidden behind collapsed wall, ears straining to capture every treacherous word. Suddenly, a shadowed figure shouts, "Someone is watching!" Drawing steel blades gleaming dangerously. Two assassins leap forward, blades cutting air, aiming directly toward Tran Deep's position swiftly. He pushes Dipe Thursday aside, drawing Silver Spirit's sword, flashing like moonlight over dark sea. Sparks explode as blades clash, ringing sound scattering crows perched nearby market ruins. Dipe Thursday unleashes palm technique, weaving winds that disrupt assassins' coordinated strike pattern. Iron Blood snarls, drawing his massive saber, preparing to crush both intruders mercilessly, yet distant explosion erupts, another group attacking, creating chaos among Bloodsword Society ranks. Tran Deep seizes moment, executing Silent Moon Shadow Strike, dropping one assassin instantly. Grabbing Dipe Thu's wrist, he vaults over debris, retreating into labyrinthine alleys, unseen swiftly. Behind them, shouts echo, blades slash empty air, frustration spreading among crimson-robed warriors. They dash across rooftops, moonlight outlining two silhouettes fleeing like phantom cranes gracefully. Finally reaching safe house, Dipe Thursday gasps. "We almost died back there tonight." Tran Deep calmly wipes sword blade, eyes reflecting determination. "We gathered enough evidence." Candle flickers, casting shadows on wall resembling dancing swords locked in eternal duel. Dipe Thursday gazes at him, admiration mixed with fear of what lies ahead inevitably. He speaks softly. "If mind trembles, sword trembles. Keep heart still, blade will guide." Outside window, city murmurs, unaware of silent war unfolding beneath festive lantern glow. Tran Deep climbs rooftop alone, gazing across sprawling city like ocean of hidden secrets. Moon hangs low, pale light glinting off sword edge, echoing cold steel of resolve. Memories of past trials surge. Illusions broken, beasts dissolved, palace of temptation collapsed. Each challenge forged his will deeper, carving unshakable path beyond fear, desire, and doubt. Now battle extends to living city, human schemes more intricate than mystical illusions combined. He spreads letter and notes, mapping allies, enemies, and likely infiltration points clearly. A plan forms. Expose Bloodsword Society at tournament, protect innocence, confront Iron Blood. He vows silently to defend Dipe Thursday, even if blade must taste crimson shadow directly. Wind rises, carrying scents of incense, roasted meat, and hidden poison wafting from unseen kitchens. Tran Deep inhales deeply, grounding himself in moment, merging sword intent with city pulse. In distant tower, masked observer reports to unknown master. Target survived. Plans continue. Tran Deep senses gaze, scanning horizon but finding only fluttering banners of tournament. Dipe Thursday returns, bringing scrolls about sect, alliances, arena schedules, and secret dueling grounds. They pore over data until dawn, lines of strategy drawn like sword strokes on paper. He teaches her breathing technique to stabilize energy, preventing panic during imminent confrontation. She listens intently, heart steadying, feeling strength radiating from his unwavering composure. Together, they practice synchronized moves, blades crossing under early morning sun's gentle glow. The city awakens. Drums announce festival parades, oblivious to lurking predators under festive veil. Merchants set stalls, children chase each other, bells chime from ancient temples nearby. Tran Deep cloaks sword aura, moving among crowds, marking suspicious figures with subtle glance. His mind sharp as blade, mapping escape routes, counting hidden guards, and assessing vulnerabilities. They overhear rumor of secret guest from far north bringing cursed relic into city walls. Tran Deep notes connection to Bloodsword Society's plan, suspecting larger network spanning continents. He quietly meets Old Beggar again, exchanging coded phrases confirming tomorrow's clandestine council. Night falls once more, lanterns sway like stars caught between earth and heavens dimly. Tran Deep meditates, visualizing sword path, refining inner strength into precise lightning strikes. Dipe Thursday watches him, realizing his calm, not absence of fear but mastery over it. She asks softly, "Why risk everything?" He answers, "Because injustice thrives when courage sleeps." Candlelight fades, leaving only moonbeam drawing silver line across polished sword blade. Dreams of ancient cranes flying over mountain peaks guide his spirit through labyrinth of schemes. He awakens before dawn, pulse steady, mind clear, ready to face blood and betrayal. Armor adjusted, talismans prepared, He tests footwork silently, blade humming faintly like living thing. City guards march outside, banners flutter, signaling arrival of high sect representatives. Deep Thursday tightens her sash, eyes meeting his with mutual understanding unspoken yet strong. Together they step into streets, disappearing into river of people flowing toward Central Arena. Overhead drums echo, hawks circle sky, a sign of coming storm over Van Hack. Tran Deep senses currents of fate tightening, weaving their paths toward inevitable confrontation. His sword heart pulses. Protect the weak, expose the corrupt. Face darkness without hesitation. As sun rises, arena's gates open, revealing vast grounds built from white marble stone. Thousands gather, banners flying, sect leaders seated, tension thick like storm before lightning strike. Tran Deep walks forward calmly, silver spirit sword concealed yet ready, eyes fixed on destiny ahead. Morning sunlight bathes Van Hack City as drums announce the start of the Grand Marshal Tournament. Towering white crane statues guard the arena gates, glowing faintly under shimmering protective talismans. Tran Deep and Deep Thursday walk calmly through crowded streets, cloaks hiding their inner energy. Merchants, beggars, and wandering swordsmen fill alleys, rumors swirling about Blood Sword Society schemes. The arena rises high, seats carved from white stone, banners fluttering like wings of cranes. Tens of thousands gather, voices merging, excitement masking underlying tension and hidden murderous intent. Tran Deep tightens his grip on Silver Spirit's sword, eyes scanning crowds for assassins carefully. Deep Thursday whispers warnings, recalling intelligence about tomorrow's plot hidden under the tournament stage. Guards check contestants, measuring aura levels, ignoring cloaked strangers, slipping past unnoticed silently. Tran Deep blends in, aura suppressed, footsteps light yet steady like flowing mountain stream. Blood Sword Society members lurk nearby, crimson emblems stitched on dark robes glinting under sunlight. The announcer's voice booms, echoing across marble walls. Contestants prepare. Contestants line up, weapons gleaming, eyes hard like tempered steel, prepared for bloody victory. Tran Deep and Deep Thursday enter Arena 3, faces calm but hearts aware of danger. Opponents emerge. Two northern brothers wielding twin swords, famous for deadly synchronized strikes. Audience roars, betting coins clinking, excitement thick as scent of sweat and iron. Signal drum strikes once. Twin swords charge, weaving lethal lattice of intersecting slashes swiftly. Tran Deep sidesteps, hand brushing hilt, breath steady, calculating patterns within swirling blades. Silver Spirit's sword flashes, intercepting twin strikes, redirecting momentum into harmless arcs outward. Deep Thursday releases palm wind technique, scattering their formation, forcing them apart temporarily. Audience gasps, seeing teamwork, murmuring. Who are these two fighting like mirrored spirits? One brother stumbles. Tran Deep pivots, blade tracing moonlight arc, cutting enemy's sleeve. Referee waves banner declaring victory. Crowd cheers thunderously, their first win echoing across stands. Tran Deep sheaths sword, glances at Deep Thursday, silent understanding passing between seasoned fighters. Blood Sword Society observer notes their skill, whispering orders to shadowed underlings preparing retaliation. Next rounds grow fiercer, stronger opponents revealing hidden techniques amid clang of weapons. Blood sprays stone floor, cries of pain mixing with cheering crowd and beating drums. Tran Deep intervenes subtly, deflecting poisoned needles aimed at an unsuspecting competitor nearby. Assassins realize interference, eyes narrowing with grudges, plotting revenge against cloaked swordsmen. Deep Thursday whispers. They suspect us. Tran Deep replies. Good, let them reveal themselves. After 3 matches they reach top 32, exhaustion masked under calm disciplined breathing. Night falls over Van Hack City, arena torches flickering like stars descended to earth. In their room, Tran Deep meditates, cross-legged, refining sword intent, calming turbulent inner ocean. Moonlight slants across wooden floor, shadows drawing long cranes beneath window lattice bars. A secret letter slips under door. Tomorrow, beware Southern stands during 4th match. Signed only with familiar crane sigil. Message from trusted ally Hack Fong's hidden network. Tran Deep nods silently, folding paper, mind turning over possible ambushes and countermeasures carefully. Dawn breaks. Crowds double. Anticipation swelling. Merchants shouting. Banners snapping in morning wind. Ironblood arrives openly as honored guest. Crimson robes and sinister smile, announcing hidden power. Drums thunder, contestants summoned again. Tran Deep steps into giant marble arena for fourth bout. Opponent wields black longsword, aura deep like ocean trench, eyes cold and merciless. Deep Thursday waits nearby outside ring, scanning southern stands as tension coils tighter within. Referee signals start. Black sword strikes first, waves of dark energy surging toward Tran Deep. Tran Deep parries with flowing motion. Silver spirit sword singing like moonlit stream breaking stone. Southern stands stir. A crossbow hidden among crowd angles downward toward Deep Thursday stealthily. Tran Deep glimpses dark glint. Lunges, palm force blasting Deep Thursday aside as arrow flies. Sword arcs up, cleaving poisoned bolt midair, shards scattering like deadly rain across marble. Crowd screams, chaos erupts. Referee stumbles back. Black sword opponent lunges for exposed heart. Tran Deep vanishes with moon shadow mirage, reappearing behind opponent, blade grazing enemy's throat. You lose, he whispers. Opponent freezes. Referee raises flag trembling. Match concluded. Smoke billows from southern stands. Assassins dropping cloaks, releasing vials of crimson poisonous gas. Panic spreads through spectators. Children crying, merchants fleeing, sect leaders drawing protective talismans. Tran Deep grabs Deep Thu's wrist, leaping onto railing, slashing incoming assassins, mid-air, swiftly. Silver Spirit's sword glows brighter, cutting through toxic haze, forming vacuum pockets of clean air. Deep Thursday unleashes wind palms, dispersing clouds, shielding bystanders from choking venomous mists. Iron Blood watches from above, eyes glinting, murmuring. So he's the thorn in my side. He leaps, crimson sword drawn, descending like bloody comet toward Tran Deep without hesitation. Tran Deep pivots, blade rising. Two auras clash, thunder rolling across shattered arena stones. Spectators gape. Sect elders stand. This no longer mere tournament but war between hidden factions. Iron Blood strikes heavy, each blow dripping malice, seeking to crush Tran Deep utterly. Tran Deep flows like water, redirecting force, countering with precision strikes, carving thin bleeding lines. Deep Thursday deflects secondary assassins, spinning gracefully, palm winds scattering knives and Blood Sword Society's formation collapses, plans unraveling under coordinated resistance and sect elders' interference. Iron Blood roars, unleashing Blood Sea Saber, waves of scarlet energy cascading like crashing tides. Tran Deep centers breath, merging sword heart with city pulse, channeling starlight piercing shadow. Two techniques collide, explosion, shattering columns, dust clouds rising, crowd blinded by brilliance. Iron Blood staggers back, shoulder bleeding. Tran Deep stands tall, blade steady, eyes unyielding. Who are you? Iron Blood snarls. Tran Deep answers. One who refuses to see innocents die. Iron Blood hurls, smoke bomb, retreating with survivors, vanishing into labyrinthian alleys beyond arena. Silence falls. Only groans of injured and crackle of burning banners remain echoing sadly. Sect leaders descend, surrounding Tran Deep, demanding explanation, eyes mixing gratitude and suspicion. Tran Deep bows slightly, revealing partial truth about Blood Sword Society infiltration plot during tournament. Elders exchange grave looks, promising investigation but keeping distance, each fearing deeper entanglement politically. Deep Thursday leans close, whispering, "They doubt us, but at least Blood Sword Society revealed themselves." Tran Deep nods. Inner resolve hardens like tempered steel forged by trial of battle. Medical disciples tend injured civilians, dispersing Antidotes sealing arena with protective barrier temporarily. Outside, rumors swirl, naming Tran Deep Silver Crane Sword. For heroic deeds during ambush, merchants retell fight in exaggerated tones, children acting scenes with sticks imitating clashing swords. Yet hidden agents still stalk streets, transmitting reports to unseen masters far beyond city walls. That night Tran Deep sits atop an roof, sword across knees, moonlight silvering his hair. He recalls explosions, screams, crimson sword, realizing tomorrow's battles will demand even greater courage. Deep Thursday joins him, quiet presence, steadying storm raging within his heart quietly. She says softly, "We are in this together now, no turning back. No retreat." Tran Deep smiles faintly. "Then we will cut through shadows until truth stands clear again." Wind carries scent of incense, echoing hallowed temples and vows whispered under starlit skies. He meditates, weaving sword intent deeper, forging new pathways within meridians, strengthened by perilous combat. His senses expand, feeling city heartbeat, market cries, assassins whispering, rivers running under bridges. Dawn approaches, painting clouds pink, signaling beginning of next phase in silent hidden war. Tran Deep tightens cloak, storing letters, marking allies and enemies on mental map, precisely. He writes message to Hakfong, requesting reinforcements and confirmation of deeper blood sword networks. Deep Thursday packs supplies, preparing travel routes, suspecting Iron Blood regrouping beyond southern hills. City stirs. Survivors rebuild stalls. Rumors of heavenly duels spread like wildfire across land. Sect elders debate whether to support or hinder mysterious silver crane sword in secret councils. Tran Deep senses shift, destiny weaving tighter web around his path like silken threads invisible. He stands at window, silver spirit sword gleaming, promising silent retribution against crimson shadow. Birds take flight from temple spires, wings flashing white against dawn sky like omens. He whispers, "No more hiding. Tomorrow I strike first, before they swallow city in blood." Deep Thursday places hand on his shoulder. Sharing strength, eyes burning with shared determination. Together they gaze toward rising sun, knowing battle against blood sword society far from over. Scene fades with silver spirit sword catching, dawn light, symbol of unbroken will, facing endless darkness. Dawn paints Van Hack City golden as Tran Deep and Deep Thursday recover from bloody tournament. Citizens whisper legends of Silver Crane Sword, the young hero cleansing darkness with calm resolve. On a tea house roof, they watch streets bustling, sensing storms beneath calm appearances. A mysterious letter from Hakfong arrives, warning about a secret abyss under Crane Mountain. Blood Sword Society seeks the guiding relic. Deep Thursday reads, eyes filled with determination clearly. Tran Deep folds the map, knowing time grows short before enemies reach the ancient site. Morning wind carries distant crane calls, echoing across fields like drums of destiny approaching. They pack spirit sword, talismans, and antidotes, preparing for a perilous journey through forbidden paths. Leaving Van Hack City at dawn, golden sunlight flickers on their determined faces quietly. Fields of ripening rice sway like seas, mist curling above earth like silver rivers. Deep Thursday glances at Tran Deep, recalling Master Li's warnings about dark forces underground. "We must arrive first," she says firmly, voice trembling with urgency but steady determination. Tran Deep nods, tightening his cloak, sensing spiritual currents twisting beneath distant Crane Mountain. Noon heat shimmers as mountain appears, wings of stone reaching sky like giant cranes. Clouds coil around summit, rays piercing down like divine threads guiding chosen warriors forward. Beneath mountain lies dense bamboo forest, rumored to conceal entrance carved by ancient guardians. Afternoon shadows lengthen as they search hidden trails, guided only by runes on map. Finally, a stone door covered by vines reveals itself, pulsing faint blue spiritual aura. Deep Thursday touches carvings, feeling old energy flowing like water, whispering forgotten guardian vows. Tran Deep clears vines, revealing twin crane wings engraved around a circular glowing seal. With inner energy he presses the center, door grinds open releasing chilling subterranean air. They light torches, stepping into spiraling stairs plunging down into Earth's dark heart. Each footstep echoes ancient chants, carrying remnants of long-dead monks guarding forgotten secrets forever. Air grows colder, walls lined with moss and crystals reflecting dim torchlight like stars. After 100 steps, cavern opens into abyss with glowing river and towering stone cranes. Giant statues stare unblinking, emerald eyes glinting, silent sentinels of a sacred hidden altar. Marble altar marked with spirals exactly matching symbols described inside Hakfong's urgent letter. Turn HN platform, whispers Deep Thursday, awe and fear mingling in her trembling voice. Tran Deep kneels to study runes, noticing recent chisel marks disrupting protective sigils dangerously. Footsteps echo from shadows, cloaked figures emerge, wearing crimson robes with curved predatory swords. Too late, leader sneers. The relic belongs to Blood Sword Society. Not wandering swordsman. Tran Deep rises calmly, spirit sword humming silver light, voice steady like mountain wind. Over our dead bodies, he replies, eyes shining with fierce unwavering resolve and justice. Deep Thursday ignites talismans, creating spirals of wind, shielding them from sudden deadly assault. Crimson assassins rush forward, blades flashing red arcs like blood moon claws, striking rapidly. Tran Deep counters with flowing strikes, each swing silver lightning tearing through shadows mercilessly. Ground shakes as energies collide, pebbles raining into abyss, echoes swallowed by glowing river. Leader lunges, curved blade screeching, leaving burning red streaks slicing air toward Tran Deep. He sidesteps, executes moonlight crossing shadows, spirit sword splitting twin strikes, perfectly balanced. Deep Thursday seizes moment, darting to altar, reaching small wooden box glowing faint green. Inside lies Jadewing relic, emitting pulse of ancient energy resonating with crane statues. As her fingers touch relic, entire platform erupts light, runes flaring across cavern walls, horn-like sound echoes, shaking souls, summoning hidden stairway spiraling deeper into mountain's core. Stones crack, abyss widens, blue mist rising like ancient dragon's breath, awakening from slumber. Leader screams, charging, desperate to reclaim relic before it seals or awakens forgotten horror. Tran Deep blocks strike, parries swiftly, unleashing starlight-piercing shadows cutting enemies' crimson cloak. Sigil carved on leader's chest glows blood-red, channeling forbidden energy into monstrous attack suddenly. Silver Spirit's sword meets crimson arc, shockwave blasting torches out, plunging cavern into twilight. Tran Deep pushes harder, reversing flow, hurling enemy backward toward newly opened stairway's edge. Deep Thursday grips relic, chanting sealing mantra, learned secretly from Master Li's old scroll. Runes flicker, light bending, faint cries echo as ancient seals tighten around abyss below. Enemy lunges once more, but ground cracks, sending him tumbling down spiraling stairway, screaming. Distant roar rises from depths, older than time, promising doom and revelation intertwined horribly. Deep Thu's eyes widen, we awakened something deeper than relic. Something sealed for centuries. Tran Deep steadies breath, sensing colossal presence stirring below, like ocean beneath fragile boat. Blue mist thickens, statues trembling, emerald eyes flicker as though sensing coming resurrection dreadfully. Spirit sword vibrates violently, warning of immense power hidden beyond sealed gates underfoot. Relic is only a key, Tran Deep whispers, true door waits below. Beyond courage. Deep Thursday nods, clutching Jadewing tighter, feeling heartbeats synchronizing with subterranean pulses terrifyingly. They retreat toward cavern wall, watching stairway glow with shifting runes forming celestial map. Tran Deep memorizes patterns, realizing ancient coordinates point directly to Van Hack City's center. Bloodsword Society planned everything, he mutters. We're pieces inside their grand sacrificial ritual. Deep Thursday draws another talisman, sealing upper door temporarily with shimmering golden barrier. Spirit sword calms, its glow soft yet unyielding, mirroring Tran Deep's determination against dark tide. Air smells metallic, mix of ancient blood, salt, and broken spells rotting for centuries. Cries fade, leaving heavy silence like grave waiting under thin crust of trembling earth. Tran Deep and Deep Thursday exchange glances, reading mutual vow without speaking single word. They cross altar slowly, checking remaining runes, ensuring relic doesn't trigger further traps accidentally. Tran Deep places hand on Jadewing, sensing energy streams, linking statues into network. Vision flashes. Past battles, crane guardians, and an enormous chained creature beneath glowing river. He snaps back, breathing heavily, realizing seal weakens faster than they can reinforce properly. Deep Thursday murmurs prayer, her voice blending with wind rushing through cracked cavern arches. Tran Deep sheaths sword briefly, closing eyes, guiding inner energy to stabilize surrounding field. Blue light dims, statues settle, but stairway below remains open, pulsing like a heart. We can't leave it open, Deep Thursday says, fear hidden under stubborn determination clearly. We go down, Tran Deep replies, tone steady as blade, to seal from source. She nods, pulling cloak tighter, feeling chill like winter sea across trembling hands clearly. Torches flicker as wind rises from below carrying whispers of lost languages, long extinct. They descend slowly, each step echoing, darkness swallowing sound except faint relic heartbeat echo. Walls here smoother, carved by unknown hands, symbols glowing faintly in pattern of wings. Tran Deep senses pressure like ocean depths, yet his spirit steadies like anchored mountain. Deep Thursday clutches relic close, its glow guiding them deeper into labyrinth of bones. Strange shapes move in shadows, half-formed illusions testing their focus and courage relentlessly still. Spirit sword hums low, projecting silver aura keeping specters away from living flesh carefully. Below lies truth, Tran Deep whispers. Beyond fear lies only understanding and necessary action. Steps spiral endlessly, yet they descend with unbroken rhythm, merging breath and willpower unshakably. Air grows warmer, hinting at magma or energy flows circling beneath Earth's sleeping crust. Crystalline veins glow crimson, pulsing like arteries feeding a hidden monstrous heart beyond comprehension. Deep Thursday steadies breath, focusing mantra to protect mind from chaotic visions, swirling strongly. Tran Deep recalls Master Li's lesson. Sword's heart must remain still within roaring storm. Shadows part revealing vast chamber, ceiling lost in darkness, floor shimmering like living mirror. In center stands colossal door, shaped as crane wings folded, runes bleeding faint red. True seal. Deep Thursday breathes. We've reached core of Crane Mountains, ancient abyss finally. Spirit sword flares bright. Sensing challenge, prepared to cut illusions or defend against incoming force. Distant thunder rolls, though no storm exists, only pressure of awakening presence below calling. Tran Deep plants feet firmly, grounding energy, preparing for inevitable confrontation beyond human measure. Deep Thursday raises relic, its glow interacting with doors, runes, unlocking ancient voice speaking. Voice murmurs, key returns, guardian reborn, destiny unfolds beyond mortal choice and earthly time. Door trembles, cracks forming, heat surging as blue mist, replaced by crimson steam rising. Tran Deep and Deep Thursday exchange final nod, stepping forward together toward unknown destiny below.